Good morning and welcome back, everyone. You are watching the All-Star Political Panel, and we have Richie joining us now. How are you doing, Richie?
Good to be here.
Good to have you. All right, I said when we came back, Bruce, I was going to ask you what you had today.
All right, I'd like to get into a little bit of gun control.
Gun control, all right.
Oh, why?
Oh, wow.
And all the good stuff associated there.
Load up.
2 hands, that's how you control them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, anyway, yesterday on the show Rick and I did, I talked about this lady from Minnesota who's a writer on conservative sites, Alyssa Algren, and she did something back in June on the top 3 arguments for gun control debunked. She was responding to an article by a Jill Silos Rooney, the top 3 arguments for gun control. Now, she earned, this Miss Rooney earned her PhD in history and is an assistant professor at Mass Bay College, Community College, wherever that is.
To give you some idea.
So she knows everything about guns,
she opened
right?
up with a story about a 9-year-old girl who accidentally shot her gun instructor with a Uzi.
Wow.
Yeah, there was some, I remember this at the time, you know, that how it happened and all that, but anyway, she used that as the linchpin of this whole argument, and then she went on to talk about 3 things, so just throw them out. The first argument, gun control saves lives. The second argument, you do not have a right to own any gun you want. And few guns mean fewer gun crimes, period. So I know Rick has a lot to say about this, so gun control saves lives.
So the second point, she said you do not have a right to own any gun that you want. What did she use for that argument? What did she use as her evidence?
She went back into Supreme Court rulings, McDonald versus Chicago in 2010, that while private citizens can own weapons, they're also subject to restrictions on those weapons. So this Alyssa says, I'm a little confused by that because it was viewed as a victory for gun rights advocates. So I think they were talking about, or what the writer was trying to say was that when the people having guns for militias, back when it was first written, these were long guns and things like that. But now everyone's got semi-automatic pistols and semi-automatic long guns and all that sort of thing. So I think that's what she was trying to say. That it was a different time. So.
Well, that's pretty much every gun control activist argument, that it's not relevant anymore.
Yeah,
basically,
exactly.
As though the American Constitution is not relevant anymore.
We have talked on this show several times about the biggest problem that I see in this whole argument structure is that the majority of the people that are talking about banning weapons, they do not understand the weapons.
Not a clue.
They don't understand how they work. They don't understand what they're used for. And they keep equating this AR, assault type rifle, how it works. It's,
military assault weapon.
It's a military assault weapon. We shouldn't be using military weapons to hunt deer.
Yeah.
If they would only understand, take some time, people, and understand that a semi-automatic weapon, regardless of what it looks like, requires a trigger pull every time you pull one into the breech and fire the weapon.
Well, that's my favorite line when they say, we don't need weapons of war on the street.
Who's carrying a weapon of war on the street?
Yeah, followed up immediately by, who uses an AR-15 for hunting?
Right.
A lot of people do.
Well, yeah, I mean, some do.
I can tell you, a lot of people do.
For hog hunting.
But,
yeah, exactly.
But to the other extreme, though, go ask somebody in Kunar province fighting if they want an AR-15. They'll tell you, well, no, that is not a weapon of war. That's not nearly as efficient as my machine gun.
As an M1.
Right.
Yeah.
M16.
An M16, rather, yeah.
Yeah, so there is a lot of miseducation, misinformation that goes on with it.
And no one before that, no one reviews that stuff before it's spewed in the mainstream media. Mm-hmm. They come out with, these are weapons of war. They fire
ignorance,
multiple numbers of rounds per minute.
Right.
Do the homework, people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and another thing is a point that was made about the gun laws save lives and make communities safer. What would you say gun ownership is up here in North Georgia?
Oh my goodness.
80?
I would
85%?
say, I would say, what is multiple gun
If not
ownership?
more.
Exactly.
is the better question. Multiple gun ownership.
And what's the violent crime rate here? Virtually zero?
0 to none.
Yeah,
Well, there you
very
go.
low.
You know,
Extremely rare.
You have a mostly a domestic.
Right.
It's the only time you hear possibly a domestic or an accident.
Right. And no one, you hear in the cities, we all watch, whether it be the Atlanta news or, big city news, if you will.
The Fox Storm team.
Right. Right. You hear of like a home invasion or something, and in communities like this where gun ownership is so high, no one's running up in a house if they think that someone's going to shoot back.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's a
virtually
deterrent.
Everyone who's got a cabin up here has got a shotgun, a 22,
Right.
Long gun, and probably a slew of.
And it's so hard. And it's so hard to quantify. It's easy to say guns are bad by taking crime statistics, but there's no way to quantify how many crimes are prevented just by the thought that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You can't count something that doesn't happen.
Exactly.
There was a radio talk show host that's since retired that was from Atlanta, Neil Bortz. You probably
One of my favorites.
all heard.
Talkmaster.
Yeah, the Talkmaster. He was great. He would celebrate. He would celebrate when a thug was taken out by a good guy, and he would say, "We got another DRT." Dead right there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And he would celebrate that on his radio show.
Yeah, no need to spend our tax dollars locking them up now, and
Exactly.
then it would turn into a fair tax.
Yeah.
Well, the
argument.
professor on that second argument, you do not have the right to own any gun. She went on at the end of her segment there to say that since we have regulations on the purchase of alcohol and cold medication, it means we can also have regulations on guns. So Alyssa responded to that. Well, alcohol and cold medication are not constitutional
Nope.
rights. They're
Exactly.
privileges. Let's go on. So
Where did
So
you say that
frustrating.
first lawsuit was? Something versus Chicago?
McDonald.
McDonald.
McDonald versus Chicago 2010.
Yeah, check your crime rate in Chicago, folks.
Yeah,
And
I-
see
yeah.
see how many people were shot and killed.
Now, was that before or after Heller? I think Heller might have been like 08
She
or
mentioned
something.
Heller here somewhere.
Scalia's
Heller was
masterpiece. That's kind of off in
The
the
rule was
weeds, but
preceded by Columbia versus Heller.
right.
Yeah. So.
So, and that's the thing with the court also is how they've kind of gone both ways on it. That they allow the federalist argument of states being able to restrict, but I think Heller especially really affirmed the right Second Amendment rights for Americans.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you look at, like as Rick was saying, I mean, major cities, New York, L.A., Chicago, typically
Detroit.
have some of the strictest gun control laws on the books.
Exactly.
Basically all Democratic
Controlled.
for
Oh,
decades.
without a doubt.
And what do you got? Some of the highest murder rates.
Now,
Yeah.
now California has gone to the fact where you have to buy ammo, to buy bullets,
Yes.
to buy shotgun shells. You have to go through the same background check
That's ridiculous.
as buying a weapon.
And it almost makes you wonder if it's not about creating a black market and creating
Exactly.
corruption, because that's my biggest argument to gun control advocates. Okay, so pie in the sky here, you ban all guns. Now, what now? What do you?
I think they know they're not going to be able to ban all guns because there's something like, 250 million guns out there, they estimate.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
absurd.
they use the argument that, well, Australia did it. Well, guess what? Australia is
Yeah.
surrounded by water.
Yeah, apples and bowling balls.
Exactly. Apples and bowling balls is a good analogy. Yeah.
Yeah.
It,
And they always talk about the Australian thing. She talks a little bit about it in there that like they had this, turn in your guns and all that. They said less than a third of the people turned them in. So 2/3 of them still have it. And they said the murder statistics out of Australia were very small to begin with.
Right.
And they went down by 59% or something like that. So it's a small number to start with, small percentage drop.
I don't know if you've ever seen this thing that went around on the internet. Doc Whaley sent it to us, I think. It's about this guy's complaining that he has a lazy gun.
Yeah.
He said, I took my 1911, my 45, my Colt 45, and set it on the counter and by God, it won't do anything. It won't get up. It won't
I've seen
shoot
those
anybody.
videos, yeah.
And it was
The whole day, it just sat there.
Yeah,
didn't
the
do a
whole
thing.
sat there, didn't do anything. I got the laziest gun on the
I
block.
saw one where the guy puts it down and he's yelling at it. He's like, "Get up, shoot somebody, do it!" And it just sits there.
Protect me.
I think ultimately it's a cop out for failed policies that make people want to create crime, mass murder or violent crime or crimes of opportunity in poor places that are run by Democrats.
I think
that's what it ultimately
I think
is.
you could apply that logic to a whole bunch of things.
Absolutely.
Not just guns.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden these policies go in because of other failed policies or because of them not being able to recognize.
Something happens, and politicians have a natural urge to do something.
Yeah.
We have
Right.
to do something.
Yeah.
Right.
We have to write
Government
new
has
law.
to step
We
in.
have to
Government's
get,
the
More
solution.
regulations. We have to do something so this doesn't happen again.
Every time that there's a shooting around the country that makes national headlines.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, okay, the bookmakers are out there going, okay, when is the first volley gonna come across the bow about
Yeah.
banning all guns now?
Yeah.
Banning all AR type weapons.
Yeah. Military stuff.
And they whip
Big
people.
clips.
They whip people into
Thank
such a frenzy
Thank
too.
Right.
Remember in Florida when they put the NRA spokeswoman?
Oh my goodness, Dana Loach.
Yeah,
With that pinko
I think
commie-
Rubio was there.
With that pinko commie that used to be the sheriff.
Oh God, I mean
What was his name?
Israel.
Israel.
He's gone now.
He is gone.
And when you think about that whole thing, the way that was, it was like a
Parkland.
WWF type.
Yeah, it was like a
arena.
cage match.
Oh yeah, and
People were screaming for her head, but it was
CNN put it all
instigated by
together.
Israel.
oh yeah.
Yeah, 'cause
I
they
mean-
had policies like, enter policies or whatever
Yeah.
it was.
There are so many questions that I don't have answers to that I'm curious about that hopefully we'll all find out one day about what went on there and the fact that
Well, the people
that
that should have
kid-
responded didn't.
no, and that kid, the FBI office down there had received so many complaints about that kid.
And the
did
other
nothing.
thing is, you remember that was a test bed for the Obama administration's policy about don't send these kids. Don't.
Oh,
Which came
right.
out of Chicago.
Which came out of Chicago, exactly.
Yep.
You remember that whole? We've talked about that on the show
Right.
too. There was an administrative policy that said, and they wanted to use it as a test bed in a couple of markets. And the instruction was mandated by the feds that if somebody gets in trouble at school,
Yeah.
you just kind of mask the problem,
Work on their self-esteem.
pat them on the head, and
Because I think
because it was African Americans that were
disproportionately being singled out to
Right.
be thrown out of school.
well, they incentivized. I think through funding, they incentivized reducing behavioral issues, and what it did is it created a culture of underreporting.
Yeah, if you had a clean sheet, you would get more federal money.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Just like
everybody
with
wanted a
standardized
clean
testing.
sheet.
Such a mess.
Yeah. I mean that was the genesis of I think what really
Money.
opened people's eyes, and it's about the money.
Yet another pie in the sky. In a perfect world, it works, but that's the problem with the left. Is that's not how the real world works.
Exactly.
You can't guarantee that people are going to have the best of intentions with everything they do.
Yeah.
Especially when there's money tied to it.
Well, since you're here and you're real active in local politics, you maybe give us kind of an overview of what's going on with the Republican Party and anything at the State House. I mean, they're on break now, right? Or
Yeah.
recess, whatever it is.
Yeah, that is one of the interesting things about Georgia is 40 days and 40 nights and it's over with the General Assembly. Really, we actually had a meeting last night in Gilmer County. We had our best turnout in 3 or 4 years. I mean, people are starting to, whether it's the national narrative, I think a lot of it is that, or people realize that we got a huge election cycle coming up, and people are starting to get involved. I like to see which way the wind's blowing a lot on the street, gauge interest. And anecdotal polling is never guaranteed, but it can tell you which way or what certain people
I
are
think
feeling.
anecdotal polling is not to be trusted much anymore.
Well, no, but I think getting the vibe of what people on the street are saying is always important. And for example, on the 4th of July, we set up as a fundraising initiative with our county party, Trump hats and 2020 bumper stickers and some yard signs. And we sold, I want to say, 150 hats.
Wow.
Of course, it's 6 hours, and all of our stickers. And I vastly underestimated the enthusiasm that we encountered, and how fired up people are. And it's an off year. I mean, this isn't an election year.
Yeah.
And one quick thing. This little girl came up and bought a hat, right? And she looked at us and she said, "Is it okay if I wear it?" And I'm standing there. Well, of course. I mean, that's what it's for. And her dad came up, and he had given her the money, of course. And he said, "Yeah, you like your hat?" And she looked at her dad and she said, "Are you sure I can wear it?" Like, she was very
Apprehensive.
Very much so. And he goes, "Yes." And he went on to tell us that he said, "Well, she lives with her mother in New Jersey."
Oh boy.
And if she were to go home and wear that hat, she would be expelled from school.
Oh my gosh. Do you
And-
have any more of those hats?
Yeah, we got plenty.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. Red, white, and black. We got a
That's
whole array of them.
crazy.
What were the hats? Did you guys make them up?
No, we ordered them online. The Make America Great Again.
Okay,
Just the
so they were
standard,
MAGA hats.
original.
Red and white.
And we had a few of the 2020s. Those went quick. And and the stickers. I mean, it was just, the enthusiasm was unreal.
As a MAGA supporter, do you guys feel betrayed because Trump came out in the day after his North Carolina rally and said,
Not at all.
and said that he didn't approve of the crowd chanting "Send her back"? Do you feel betrayed as a MAGA client or MAGA supporter?
I think
No, it's freedom of speech. People that rallies and whatever can shout whatever they
Yeah.
want. I mean,
Yeah.
look,
Breitbart ran with that headline yesterday. Rush was off the chain.
yes.
I mean, to tell you.
Drudge said, Trump turns on MAGA?
Yeah. That was the headline on Breitbart.
Was it?
Yeah. Trump turns on MAGA.
Give me a break.
has everything come down with the speaker and all his, legislative leave, or is that still going to be brought back up and kind of poke him again and again?
Well, I mean, I think people that want political power are hell-bent on
Do
going
whatever
after
they
him.
can, throw him
Right.
out.
Sure.
There's so much to that story, and we only have so long to talk about it. But if you really get into it, there is so much of that story that was not reported. You have people in this circuit, this court system up here.
Yeah. The judicial circuit.
With speeding tickets, with domestic assault, whatever it may be, runs the gamut, that are sitting on 3 or 4 years that have not gone to trial or had their case settled.
Haven't had their day.
It's jammed. It's so jammed, the way the schedule works, that they cannot adjudicate. I don't know the exact number, and I don't want to be wrong, but it's such a small percentage, and none of them hire David Ralston, Speaker Ralston, as their lawyer.
Yeah.
And when you have a bigger case, that trial is going to take longer. So, if you're the judge, do you want to clear out the jail and all these popcorn charges where you can knock out 25, 30 cases in your 2 weeks that you're allowed per month, or 1 week, whatever it is? Or do you want to do the 2-3 week case that's going to
Take up
take
the whole.
right?
Yeah.
By
sounds
law or statute, they have to do capital cases. They always go to the top of the heap anyway, don't they?
I'm not completely sure, but
Brian did a really in-depth show one day after we had a meeting with the speaker down at the he did a pretty in-depth show about the and he also had the guy that brought the charges. He had the
FBI guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had him.
Williams?
Yeah. He had him. Was that his name? No.
No, that was the national.
Yeah.
It was Derek Somerville.
That's what. Yeah. Thank you. Somerville, right? He had him in studio for what, an hour and a half?
Yeah.
something like that. And they went through the whole thing, and a lot of it was, like you said, it was underreported. People didn't understand actually how the court system worked about cases that went offline. Automatically goes to the bottom of the docket and has to work its way up through the food chain again.
And let's not pretend that the people crying the moral outrage down under the Gold Dome, some of them from Atlanta, these Atlanta folks that are by no means Mother Teresa, see an opportunity to act on a way to make a power grab and take down someone to enhance their own
their position, their
positions,
powers,
and it's a lot of inside baseball, but I think that what it boils down to.
Believe me, I mean that's replicated all over the place. I mean it's at the federal level too.
It's local level.
The first guy that goes out after the rallying cry was Schumer. Schumer is always going to the well of the Senate and
making
pontificating anyway.
But the congestion you referred to, I mean, it's exactly what's going on with the border.
Right.
Suppose they had 350 judges to handle 1 million cases. I mean, think about that.
It's impossible.
Yeah, I mean,
and that part of the story, and not to mention some of the specific stories that were, they were sold to the public through the story as something that was way more than what actually happened and what the typical sentence may be. It was overblown, and I think that it's silly, quite frankly, to go after the Speaker of the House, who is from the safest district in the entire state. He has our support. He's not going to not be reelected, as far as what I can tell. And for those who say that it's just going to create political division and the Democrats are going to campaign on this in Georgia, I think they should probably pay attention to their own districts. And
are you saying in Fenn County there's not an AOC, like there's one seat?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Not here, not yet.
I pray that day never comes. All right. Well, we're about at 9:30. So what I want to do, we didn't get to do this the last time I hosted, so I want to try to make sure to get this in here. But we always do the winners and losers. Of every week.
Oh, boy.
And Richie, do you know what I'm talking about when I say winners and losers?
Yes.
All right. So Bruce, start us off. Give us your winners and losers for this week.
I really don't have any winners. I got nothing but losers. So, this one, Rick and I are both from Chicago. There's a new mayor up there, Lori Lightfoot.
For now.
African woman. She just demanded that the state taxpayers bail out the city. She was looking for $325 million from the state.
She demanded it.
Yeah, from the state of Illinois taxpayers. And of course, there's a huge love-hate relationship between downstate Illinois and the city of Chicago, Cook County. Well, she didn't get it. The governor, who's a liberal Democrat, Jay Pritzker, he said, no, you're not going to get it. So she turns around, and what does she do? She cuts a deal with the Chicago's Teachers Union,
Oh, my.
a 5-year contract with a 14% raise.
There you go.
And they're dead broke as it is. I mean, you talk about a loser.
It's not her money.
That's your only one? You said you had a lot of them.
No, I had another one. You might have heard of Colorado State University. They came out with a list of words that you can't use anymore.
Oh my.
It is.
I bet I use half of them on a daily basis.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
In this segment alone.
Yeah. You can't use that because the original song replaces tiger with an offensive word aimed at African Americans. You're supposed to use now randomly selected.
Say what? Say that again?
Randomly selected.
Yeah, the word
Tiger?
Instead of eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Randomly selected.
Catch.
It used to be catch a tiger. We usually say catch a tiger by the. Is it by the toe?
By the toe.
By the toe.
Yeah.
But
If he
originally
hollers,
it
let
said
him go.
something else.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. The N-word.
The N-word, yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah.
I had no
Oh
idea.
my.
Well, that's good. That must be generational.
Yeah, long time no see. Originally mocking Native Americans or Chinese. I haven't seen you in a long time.
How?
I mean, there's you know.
Look at that list.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
That's what happened when people stay in school their entire lives.
Oh, yep.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
exactly what it is.
So
Need to
you
get
got
out and get a
two
job.
losers. Hope somebody's got some winners.
Yeah.
I do have a winner.
All right.
But I'm going to the loser first. My loser is those 4 twits. I wish I could remember that card that we put up with the tweets and twitters, whatever it was. But it was brilliant.
But you got your wife's thing.
For coming up with this squad.
Oh, yeah, the squad.
The squad.
The squad.
If you don't join the squad, if you don't throw away all your values and support the squad, you're a racist, you're a homophobe, you're a xenophobe.
You're a bigot.
You're a bigot.
Go down the list.
Exactly.
Go down the list of those words right there.
But let me tell you who my winner is. My winner this week is my wife. She responded to David Webb on a Twitter.
Oh, wow.
And he said, "Give me the best acronym for squad." You know, acronyms. You know, like NASA, like we talked about on the show.
National Aeronautic and Space Administration.
Well, I got a few others for that one, but anyway, my wife Cindy came up with socialist quacks undermining American democracy.
Wow.
I thought that was brilliant.
That's great.
Socialist quacks undermining American democracy.
Did you come up with that pretty quick, too?
10 minutes.
How about that?
Oh my gosh.
And
would've
she-
never-
I mean, that's why she's my winner of the week. So I mean,
There you go.
still,
That's awesome.
I got the other one.
Do you?
Yeah, it's the clueless caucus of twittering twits.
The clueless caucus of twittering twits. Now that,
Yeah, be careful
now
with
that's
that one.
not, yeah. Say that fast 3
Yeah.
times, right? That's not an acronym for squad, but Cindy, you're the winner of the week on that one.
Awesome. Richie,
Yeah.
how about you?
Well, my loser is kind of in the same vein as what you were talking about. I'm going to go the other way and say Nancy Pelosi because
Wow, yeah, good.
as we talked about, they immediately started fundraising off this. And, Trump didn't even name names specifically. And my first reaction was, well, there are, I think, 15 progressive Democrats in Congress that weren't born in this country. I don't think a lot of people know that, but they took it the way they wanted to take it for the narrative. Those 4 came out, which, let's be honest, I'm sure that's who he was talking about. But
yeah, no, we were not kidding anybody.
they completely overplay their hand, and Trump has a way of creating a contrast. I was just talking with a buddy of mine who, ironically enough, lives in Chicago, who is a progressive Democrat through and through, and he said, "What's it going to take for the Republicans to finally abandon Trump?" Because they're in their bubble up there, and I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And he goes, "They're doing all, they're saying this stuff." I said, "Listen,
You should have said what's going to take liberal Democrats to embrace Trump.
right,
For real.
and to that point, I said." He's a master at creating a contrast, whether it be with Kaepernick, either you stand or you don't, or with this, either you support.
There's no middle ground.
Right, and by going to the extremes and creating such a hullabaloo, he's able to create a contrast where people maybe start looking up what AOC has said, or that Omar married her brother, or, that sort of thing. So Pelosi is letting the tail. What is it?
Wag the dog.
Wag the dog.
Can you look on that chart and see if that's allowed? Under
Right,
Colorado State University rules.
As if anybody's going to listen to what Colorado State University says.
And it
anyway.
happened for her. It happened. It kind of sneaks up on them to where she thought she was in control of the situation, and now it's like she's taking a back seat to them.
Mm-hmm.
Quickly, my winner of the week is in District 6 here in Georgia. State Senator Brandon Beach. The fundraising totals from the quarter came in. He outraised the entire field.
Wow.
Especially former Representative Karen Handel, who was viewed as the front runner, but Beach outraised her, and not only that, he outraised her through largely local donations, whereas a lot of Handel stuff
Wasn't any outside support.
right. I mean, I'm sure there are a few that weren't technically in the district, but by far and away, most of his money came from within the district, whereas Handel still has a lot of those DC.
What was the disparity as a percentage? You remember? Was it like was he up like 3 to 1 or?
No, I want to say it was by like $40,000, $50,000.
Okay, that's
but
still a lot of dough for that size district.
considering you're a state senator going
Yeah.
against the who was the incumbent only a year ago and had that much national exposure when she ran in the special election, I think it was a major statement.
You know, we got a few seconds here. We got.
Yeah, go ahead.
You said something very interesting in your about the name calling and the resorting to that. I'm virtually certain, based on what someone brought to my attention that was on Facebook. There are people in this community, and I think Brian's going to bring it up next week, that have posted some things that are just absolutely off the chain.
Mm-hmm.
And
I've seen some of it.
and
Along political lines?
well, basically against Trump.
Oh, yeah,
Like
I
your
see it
buddy
every
in
day.
Chicago saying, when are you people gonna, when are you gonna people gonna give up on Trump?
Right, but he's.
We're not-
I'll give him this. Though. He is practical guy. I mean,
Yeah. No, but I'm.
I think he's watching.
Yeah, in that vein, some of the stuff that's coming out is, if you support Trump, you are a racist, you are a homophobe, you are a bigot.
Yep.
Really? Why does that make me a racist because I choose to support the candidate that I want? Do I not have that right? And why are you calling me names for somebody else's belief?
Because they're going to say you support a candidate who holds those beliefs.
Well,
One way
yeah,
to-
but
that's one way they can beat them.
yeah.
Is to condition them to believe that.
Yeah.
And it's,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, they're just pounding people
So
with
far
racist,
off.
bigot, homophobe, misogynist.
Yeah, you had an article in there about what really is racism anymore these days. I think it's evolved into a whole new just catch-all phrase that most people don't even understand what it
And
it means.
and what they're doing is in doing so they're damaging. I'm trying to think of the best way to say this, but when you start blanketing groups like that, and people who know that, that's not true about myself, and then you look at a history book and say, well, how do I know they weren't doing the same thing back then? It does a disservice to actual racism and actual historical. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it does a disservice to the real
Yep.
issues that people fought to overturn, and
Exactly.
and it makes.
Yeah, and we moved so far away from people being able to say things like that. I mean,
Right.
everybody's in tribes now. So, the racist thing about Trump saying women of color. Well, excuse me, maybe he just thinks they're total doofuses and they're not doing a good job.
Right.
How about meritocracy? No one talks about that.
Yeah, what does that even mean
Right.
anymore?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the tactic of the liberal left, though. They don't know the facts. They can't come at you with the facts. So instead they get bent out of shape and they say, "Oh, you're a racist. Oh, you're a homophobe." That's what they resort to.
Yeah.
That's what they do across the board. But we're going to wrap up the All-Star Political Panel. Thank you guys so much for being here today, and Richie, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a good discussion.
Yeah, thanks for Doc Whaley staying.
Yep.
staying a
Doc
little
Whaley
extra,
stuck
too.
around for a little while
Big
earlier.
sports weekend, right? Isn't it a big series for the Braves this weekend with the Nats?
Yep.
Yeah, great start last night.
Yeah, yeah.
No.
No.
You must not be a Braves fan.
Oh,
he's
huge Braves
a
fan.
Braves
A
Oh, okay.
little sarcasm there.
All right.
The Nationals.
I was gonna say the last time I saw it was like 10-3 or something like that. But anyway,
I think it
all
got
right.
worse.
Yeah. Anyway, all right, we won't get into that. But when we come back, it will be time for North Georgia Senior Living with Jesse Barton, from Community Relations Director from Cameron Hall and Ella J. Take us a break, Josh. We'll be right back.